Hello, welcome or welcome back to the YarnNYarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Today's video is a making wrap up, so I'm going to be chatting about all of the things that I worked on during the month of February. In this video I have some knitting, some spinning, some crochet and a little bit of cross stitch to share with you. I was also really lucky enough to have been gifted a few things this month. I don't tend to buy a lot of stuff for myself at the moment. I'm trying to work through my stash and organise my stash and do a little bit of destashing. If you've watched some of the previous videos you will know all about that. But this month I was lucky enough to be gifted a few things, so yeah, I've got a little bit of a show off section at the end of the video. It's a super cold day here in South Wales at the beginning of March, and I've actually been out for a little walk in the snow this morning. We had a little fluttering of snow here. We don't tend to get a whole ton of snow. I live by the coast in South Wales, but when we woke up and opened the curtains this morning there were some gentle snowflakes falling, so I've been out for a little walk and I'm home and I'm wrapped up in all of the wool still because it's really cold up here in my craft attic. I'm wearing, for anyone who might be interested, I get asked this a little bit more often these days, I'm wearing my Midori sweater, which is a pattern that is available I believe through Ravelry now. It was originally featured in a book of Noro designs and I knit mine from a Noro yarn. I can't remember the yarn base. I think it might have been Hannah Bataki, but I think it's a long discontinued base now, but a lot of the Noro yarns are kind of interchangeable. Got my Avaria mitts on so you'll see flashes of those, and I've got this beautiful cowl that was knitted for me by my lovely friend Ruth, and the name of the cowl is escaping me at the moment. I do know it, and I'll pop it on the screen. It's a beautiful colourwork cowl, and clever Ruth knitted this from a combination of some hand spun and I think it was some yarn that she got on a trip to Japan, so it's super special. It's super cosy and warm as well which is exactly what I need. So yeah, if I'm looking a little bit frazzled around the edges, it's because I've not long got in from a wet snowy walk. So I've just bundled up and started to record anyway, and we'll take a look at what I've been working on. I think because it's going to be a really short section, we might have a little chat about cross stitch and embroidery first. I have been working away for the last few months on and off on a little kit that I actually stock in the YarnNYarns shop. If you're not a long-term viewer of the channel you might not be aware that I run a little online yarn shop. I used to have a physical yarn shop here in the town that I live, but unfortunately the premises that I was renting was sold by the landlord and I had to pivot and move to just an online business for the time being, which I operate out of my home here in South Wales. And a few months ago, towards the end of last year, as a little bit of a departure from just sort of knitting and crochet and spinning supplies, I bought in a few needle felting kits and some cross stitch, and one of the kits was to make this cute little pair of Nordic gnomes. The cross stitch kit is called, and I have been busy over the last few weeks trying to finish up the cross stitch portion of this. My fabric's a little bit creased because I have soaked this but I haven't yet ironed it. I like to just quickly soak my finished cross stitch to sort of take away any dirt or grease that might have come off of my hands as I've been working on it. But this was just a really fun and really quick little crochet project. I'm going to hold the project a little bit closer to the camera in a minute, but it's two little gnomes or gonks, however you like to refer to them, and they've got a few little snowflakes in the background. I was really happy to be able to get this finished, but my project overall is not finished yet, and I'm going to be counting this towards the Passionate Spinners. So Tracy of the Passionate Spinner is having a 23 in 23 make along, and I've spoken about this before on the channel, but the idea is to try and finish 23 of your languishing crafting projects, and any craft counts. The only criteria is you have to have started it before the 1st of January 2023. The idea is to use this year to get some things finished. So I will be counting my cross stitch as part of that make along because I started it back in, I'm not sure if it was October, November, December time last year sometime anyway. But I'm not yet entering this into the make along because it's not finished. So my idea is to turn this little cross stitch into a project bag, and I have some fabric in my stash that was gifted to me not this last December, but the December before, so December 2021, my friend Lisa and I, for the last couple of years, have done a little advent swap. The first year, Lisa gifted me some fibre and some yarn, and this last year we just did a fibre swap. But in the 2021, the first swap we did, Lisa kindly gifted me this fat quarter of fabric as part of the advent, and as you can see, it's fairly Christmassy. It's got trees and stockings, and there's some snowflakes, there's some cups of hot beverage, some steaming beverage, candles, and there's also these really cute little gnomes on the fabric. So my idea has always been to combine these two together, because I think the little gnomes on the fabric are quite reminiscent, although the colours are reversed. These have got red bodies and green hats, and it's the opposite on there, but I thought they complemented each other quite nicely. So I'm going to be chopping up this fabric and sort of sewing this, so the cross stitch will be the centre sort of panel on the front of the project bag. And so yeah, I've got to get my sewing machine out and get that done, and I'm hoping that getting my sewing machine out will spur me on to do a little bit more project bag making. I've had a few people request some project, I used to make project bags for the shop, and I've had a few people asking me recently whether I was going to make some more, and so I'm hoping that by making one for myself that will spur me on to keeping the sewing machine out and making a few for the shop as well. We'll see. I'm not going to put any pressure on myself. I don't enjoy sitting at the sewing machine as much these days as I used to, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. But that was my little adventure in cross stitch this month. Finishing off those gnomes has given me a little bit of a taste for embroidery again, or for cross stitch again. I've got lots of unfinished cross stitches that my mum started, and my mum has now been gone. She passed away 15 years ago now, so a long time, and I've finished a couple of her cross stitches, but she's a fan of doing quite big pieces, and so a combination of not being quite ready to pick up my mum's unfinished projects, and also not really knowing what I would do with these big pieces once they're finished, has kind of kept me away from starting those. But I'm starting to maybe feel the call to get back to those at some point, so perhaps I'll do a little bit of a video at some point chatting about the projects that I've got that were my mum's works in progress. Perhaps that will spur me on. Let me know if you're interested in that. Before I do embark on that, I think I'm going to start on a new cross stitch project myself, and I bought this kit a little while ago, and I think I first saw this on Davina of a Little Workroom Crafts. Oh, is that the name of your channel? Oh, I'm sorry, it's completely blanking, going out of my head. I'll put it on the screen and I'll put a link below. But yeah, I saw this kit and I knew that I had to get one for myself, because again, if you follow the channel for any length of time, you'll know that I have a slight obsession with Moose, the animal, and the dessert as well. But the animal first and foremost. And this is a super cute design of a moose with this kind of wintry Christmassy village in the antlers, and I thought this might be a sort of perfect thing to turn into some sort of wall hanging that I get out at Christmas time. I am hoping over the coming years to make out a few more sort of seasonal decorations. So it's all in the packaging still, but hopefully you can see that past the sort of light reflecting. It's called Christmas Moose and it's by a company called Panna, and so I think I'm going to start working on this now that I finish my gnomes. It's just been quite nice to have a little bit of a change from knitting and my crochet, my spinning, just to sit for not long, you know, half an hour at the most, and add a few stitches to the gnomes has been quite soothing. So I thought I might start this one next. I don't think cross stitch is going to be something that I talk about every episode from here on in, or every making roundup from here on in, but it might be something that comes out every few episodes and I'll just update you with my progress, if any, because as usual I have all these ideas and plans in my head and not always the time to put them into practice. So yeah, we'll see how I get on. So I think we'll chat some knitting next. I managed to get a fair bit of knitting done in February. Oh my god, my hair is so scruffy, sorry. I'm trying to keep it down so that it dries out a bit from getting a little bit wet in the snow. When is my hair never not scruffy? Anyway, knitting. So yeah, I managed to get quite a lot of knitting done in the last few weeks. I had a wonderful trip away at the beginning of February with a lovely group of my friends, and we had a weekend of just fun, knitting, chatting, eating, laughing, and that started my month off, my making month off, with a bang. I managed to get more than I thought accomplished during that weekend, and it just kind of carried on from there. If you watched my February making plans video, one of the dice rolls that I got, one of the prompts that were picked for me, was the mood prompt. And again, if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about when I say I roll the dice, there are plenty of videos on the channel which will give you a flavour of what that's all about. But basically I have a multi-sided dice and a set of prompt cards, and at the beginning of each month I roll the dice 4 times and I try and pick projects based on the prompts that are on the card. For February I got the mood prompt, which I love that prompt because it's basically carte blanche to knit on whatever I like whenever I like. And I ended up knitting on 3 different projects for this prompt, but I think the one that I managed to make the most progress on was my ripple camisole, and this is a project that I cast on for our 12 cast-ons 2022. This was the project that I started on day 7. I'm using some beautiful yarn from Attic Spin Dye, and this was one of their club colourways from last year. They did a series of yarns based on British birds, and this was the wren colourway, and I accidentally ended up ordering 2 skeins of yarn, and Andy very kindly contacted me and asked had I meant to place an order for 2, because I made 2 separate orders, and I hadn't meant to, but I was happy to keep 2 yarns. You know, it was my mistake, not that ordering yarn is ever a mistake. And actually it worked out perfectly, because I'm going to need more or less 2 skeins for the size that I'm knitting in the ripple camisole, which is a pattern by Jessie Made Designs. It's basically at this stage a tube of 3x3 rib, and I picked it for the mood project. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone's ever in the mood to knit a 3x3 rib tube, because this is a lot of knitting and a lot of quite slow knitting. I find that I'm fairly slow at knitting rib because I'm changing the yarn from front to back all the time. But this was a project that I wanted to take away with me when I was away for my weekend, because I thought it's something I can easily do when I'm in company and chatting. It's not something you really need to concentrate on. And I did add a little bit of work to this project during that weekend, but the bulk of my knitting time on this project has been during my video editing sessions and little breaks from work. So I've kept this project down on my desk downstairs next to my laptop, and I've just picked it up when I've had the opportunity and added a row or a stitch or 2 here and there, and lo and behold, I've actually knit a huge amount. This is a lot of work. So back here is the marker. Let me hold this the other way up. So down here is the marker of where I got to on the first day of the cast-ons, and there's probably about an inch of knitting there, and altogether now I have knit 14 inches of body on this project. At the very end of the month I got to the point where I now have to start sort of shaping for the top of the camisole. I couldn't quite believe that I managed to get all of this done, because as I say, it's not the most interesting of knitting, but the yarn is absolutely beautiful to work with. I love how it's working up. We've got a little bit of striping, we've got some sort of zigzagging, some flashing, not really much pooling, but yeah, it's just been really fun watching the colours shift and change. Caramel browns and the slightly rusty browns. It's just been really joyous to work on this, as I say, even though it's not the most fun knitting. So yeah, I made a ton of progress on that, and hopefully next time I'm able to pick that up I shall maybe finish it, because I feel like I've done the bulk of the knitting now. I've obviously got to shape the top of the project and add in some straps, so there's still quite a bit of knitting done, but I feel like, yeah, I've kind of broken the back of that project. That's just living in one of my self-made project bags. There's plenty of room in there with the project and the 2 yarns, and so yeah, I'm gonna pop that back on the shelf behind me, and it will patiently or impatiently wait until the next opportunity that I have to work on it. The next project that I picked up for the mood prompt, and again this was one I wanted to take away on my weekend, it's living in this lovely project bag by Curly Emma, another little gnome bag, and this is my gingerbread sock, and I've actually worked on this a little. It's the 8th of March, I think, as I'm recording this wrap up, and I went to the cinema yesterday and I actually added a few inches of this sock at the cinema. So you're seeing my February progress and a little bit of unexpected March progress, because this project is not on my list of things to work on this month. However, when I went to the cinema yesterday, I didn't really have any other projects that would satisfy my need to knit while I'm sitting, and also that I would be able to actually knit in the dark at the cinema. So yeah, here is my gingerbread sock. This is a yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners. It was their seasonal colourway from last year, and I cast this on day 11 of the 12 cast-ons. This was where I got to on the first day of cast-ons, and by the end of February I was up here where this second marker is. So yesterday in the cinema I basically knit between here and here. So yeah, I'm making slow but steady progress on this. I absolutely love this colourway, no surprise. It's got that beautiful rusty orange in there again, which is my absolute favourite colour. But I just haven't really been drawn to knitting plain socks recently. In the past, I could have happily knit a pair of socks in a week, really, in less than a week. Yeah, the urge to knit a vanilla sock is just not something that is pulling me at the moment. So which is absolutely fine. A little bit of progress was made, not a huge ton, and this one will go again back on the shelf. I feel like it might become a little bit of a cinema knitting project. I'm trying to get back into the habit of going to the cinema. I love going to the cinema, and before the pandemic I used to go pretty much every week as a little treat to myself. But yeah, I got out of the habit, and since things have opened back up again, I haven't really got back into that habit. I've gone to see 2 films this year. So yeah, I'm hoping maybe it'll be the start of me getting back into doing that. So I think this might become my cinema knitting project. I'm in no rush for those socks. I don't even know how many socks at this point. So I'm happy just to have that project ticking along in the background, and they will get finished when they get finished. The third project that I justified working on with this mood prompt. I mean, my dice rolls are just for fun. I don't need to justify anything, but fitting it into those prompts is kind of a little bit of a fun challenge for me. So yeah, my mood prompt meant that I was able to carry on working on my mitten advent calendar. This is like a little garland of mini mittens that I'm working on. Again, I cast this on during our 12 cast-ons this last cycle on day 9. It's a pattern by Kathy Lewinsky. The pattern is available for free. There's a link to a blog that has all of the pattern charts, or you can pay for a pattern download. If you are a Ravelry user and you want to keep the pattern all together in your library, you can get a Ravelry download for everything in one place. And I wanted to say a big thank you to my lovely friend Sam, who actually purchased the pattern for me. I was having trouble. I really wanted to buy the pattern to support the designer, but for some reason every time I tried, Ravelry and my PayPal account just weren't communicating. Something in the connection just wouldn't work, and I tried a couple of times to do this, and I even went off and bought another pattern just to make sure there wasn't anything wrong with my PayPal account, and it worked absolutely fine. There was just some sort of blip on this pattern, but my lovely friend Sam very kindly bought the pattern and gifted it to me, so thank you so much, Sam, for that. I've got it all now in one place in my Ravelry library, so I'm just steadily working through the mittens now. And if you watch my wrap up, my last wrap up, I think you would have seen mitts 1, 2 and maybe 3 as well. Yeah, I think I showed those off last time, so I won't spend too much time talking about those again. My aim is to try and knit at least 2 mittens each month, so that hopefully by this December, if all goes to plan, I will have this lovely sort of advent mitten garland to hang up somewhere in the house. So yeah, I carried on working on this project this month, and I knit almost 5 mittens this month, so way more than my sort of target of 2. So I've got number 4, 5, 6 with the angel at the bottom, number 7, and I've almost finished mitten number 8. You can take it as written that I'm changing the colours. The pattern does give you kind of recommended colour placements and colour suggestions, but I'm using 3 different yarns for mine, and I'm just kind of mixing and matching them as I feel like I want to. My yarns, as a recap, are the I think this is called Wold's Poppy, which is one of my favourite ever yarns. It's Rowan Valley Tweed. It's like a 4-ply woolen spun sort of tweedy yarn. That's showing up a little bit brighter than it is in real life when I hold it up to the screen. Actually, I'm using 4 yarns. I think I said 3, but it's 4. I'm using the Moose Kit colourway, which is Jameson and Smith in the Spindrift. And that's the sort of beigey grey colour that you can see in a lot of the mitts. And the other 2 yarns are also Jameson and Smith. I've got the Leprechaun colourway, which is my green that I'm using, and then I've just got the white, which I'm trying not to use for too often. The white shows up in the patterns as written quite a lot, but I'm trying to limit my use of white. I don't know why, I just like the more muted colours, but I'm bringing in the white anytime that it makes sense. Got a nice little stack going on now of all of my mittens coming together, and so I'm ahead of schedule, but I'm still going to try and stick to my 2 mittens a month minimum. Otherwise I feel like this could be a project that I would happily procrastinate on. So I would think, oh, I'm way ahead, so let's not do this for a couple of months, and then before I know it, it'll be November and I've still got 10 mitts left to, to knit. So I'm going to continue working on this one in March. I'm going to finish off mitt number 8. I've just got the thumb. I've done the little hanging loop and everything. It's just the picking up the stitches off the waste yarn, knitting that thumb, and then hopefully I will knit at least mitt number 9 and 10. So yeah, making good progress on that. Again, this is another me-made project bag that I'm keeping this in. This fabric was a lovely gift from my friend over in the US, Lisa. It's got these beautiful red cardinals, and I'm not sure what these birds are. I'm not very well versed on American birds. Maybe a chickadee? Let me know. But yeah, I think Lisa made herself a project bag many years ago now in this fabric, and I commented how much I like the fabric, and she very kindly sent me some that she had left over. Those are the 3 projects that I justified working on for that one mood prompt. Oh my goodness, I've just realised that I have one more project to share with you, and it's a finished object project as well. How could I forget? It's downstairs blocking, which is why I've forgotten. So I think I will insert a little bit of footage from the future, which will be the past by the time you see this, when that project is finished drying. How could I finished a sweater, how could I forget? How could I forget? It's because it's not right in front of me. Okay, I will hand you over to Ange from the future when the project is finished blocking and I can share it with you. I can't quite believe I forgot this. This is the 4th project that I worked on for my mood prompt. So I didn't work on 3 at all, I worked on 4. How could I forget? My brain, sometimes I don't know how I function. But I have a finished sweater to share with you, and I think you probably will have already seen this. I'm not quite sure what order the videos will go up in, but I have a whole vlog dedicated to the making of this sweater, which is the Simple Stripes pattern. I think by Suvi Knits, although I might be remembering that incorrectly, and if I have remembered that incorrectly, I'll put my correction on the screen now. This was one of my 12 cast-ons from 2021, so not this iteration but the one before. So this has been over a year in the making, and that's absolutely okay. I am in no rush for any of my projects, and I am fully acceptant of the fact that because I work on so many things take a long time to get finished overall. I'm happy to have another beautiful sweater to add to my sweater collection. I'm not going to chat about it too much because, as I say, there is a whole video if you want more detail. I did end up modifying the pattern in terms of the sleeve length. The pattern as written has full length sleeves, but I ran out of one of my yarn colours, so I made my sleeves 3/4 length. But apart from that, I knit to pattern using some absolutely glorious natural dyed yarn from the lovely Fee of Flourish Fibres, and I used 5 different colours. I do have a fair amount of yarn left. I'm looking around to see if I have my bag with the leftover yarn handy, which I don't, but again, you'll be able to see that in the vlog if you want to watch that. So yeah, I ran out of this brown colour for some reason, and that was one of the ones that I used in my Vertices Unite when I first started knitting it. So whether I have got some lurking and I just haven't come across it, or whether I accidentally gathered it up and threw some yarn away, shock horror, I hope I didn't do that, or whether I just had a smaller skein of this brown in the first place, I really can't remember. But for whatever reason I ran out of that one, so I had to adjust, and I made my sleeves 3/4. But yeah, I'm more than happy with how this sweater turned out. I'll put a little video shot over the top showing you the full sweater because it's a little bit tricky to hold it up and show you the whole thing. And if you do want to see what it looks like on, there's some shots of that at the end of the making vlog, so you can always hop over and watch that vlog if you want to see me wearing this and how it fits. Is that my first finished project of the year, knitting wise? I finished a pair of socks which were a gift for a friend, so yeah, I think this might be my first actual finished knit project of the year, which is really exciting, and also really nice to have one of the older projects off the needles and one of the previous 12 cast-ons as well. I don't think there's anything else to say about that one, so I will hand you back to Ange of the past for the rest of my February makes. The next prompt that I got was to work with something hand spun, and again I was a little bit greedy and I picked not one but 2 projects to work on for that prompt. The reason that I picked 2 is because one of the projects still involved a little bit of spinning, so my justification was when I moved on to the spinning portion of that project, I would then pick up the other project that was more knitting based. So the project that involved a little bit of spinning is the litmus cowl that I've been working on for a good, well over a year now. This was one of the projects that I started back in the 2021 round of our 12 cast on project, and this last month I got busy knitting up a few samples. I was trying to choose, I'd already spun all of my contrast colours, and I was trying to find a main colour or a background colour, so I spun up samples of 3 different yarns, and there's a vlog about this up on the channel, so you may have already watched and sort of be caught up. But I spun up some of this rusty orange, these are all fibres from John Arbon, some of this beautiful green, and then some of this lovely blue. Oops. And as you can see, I knit up 3 swatches to try and decide what was going to be my main colour. In the end I decided on the blue, and so I have been spinning away and I have spun up one sort of mini hank of the blue, so I'm getting ready to cast this project on now, and I've started spinning another batch of the blue on my support spindles, so this is kind of part knitting, part spinning progress. So now that I've got one quantity of this done, I'm going to start my actual knitting. I managed to get the hand spun prompt again this month when I played the dice game, so I'm going to be carrying on with the litmus because I am just really excited about that. It's been, like I say, it's been a project in progress for well over a year now. The spinning has taken longer than I thought because I kind of changed my mind about the yarn that I was going to use, and then I sort of just ran out of time to work on it last year. Now that I know exactly what I'm doing with the yarns, I'm excited to carry on and get that project on the needles and properly work on it this month. Project number 1 that I worked on for the handspun prompt, and project number 2 was a project from this year's 12 cast-ons, the project that I cast on day 2, and these are the Lunar mitts. This is the one project that I worked on this month that I didn't make as much progress as I would have liked, but I made so much progress on some of the other ones that I can't really be mad. But here is my Lunar mitts. It's a pattern by YarnNYarns, and it's from the Shetland Wool Week Annual from 2018, volume 4 of the Shetland Wool Week Annual, and I cast this on during the 12 cast-ons to use some beautiful hand spun yarn that I spun up on my support spindles. It turned out to be lace weight, and I wasn't really sure what to do with it because I'm not a big fan of working with lace weight, and then I found that pattern and I figured that this would be the perfect excuse to get this yarn on the needles so that the yarn didn't just sort of sit forever in my yarn stash, not without purpose. So I've had a few issues with finding the right needles for this yarn, and I've got some needles that are working quite nicely, but the cord is really long. It's 100 centimeters and it keeps getting in the way. So I still haven't quite found the perfect match for needle and yarn for this, so it's going to be a little bit frustrating to show this to you. But this marker here where my finger is, this is where I got to on day 1 when I cast it on this project, and so I've knit a few more pattern repeats. I've put in some waste yarn for where the thumb goes, and I think I've maybe got 1 or 2 more pattern repeats until this is done. So it's a fairly quick knit once I get on with it. but yeah, I just ran out of time to work on that one. I will get back to it at some point. Again, I'm not really in a rush for any of these things. It's all just for fun. That's living in this beautiful bag from my lovely friend Julia, Mindful Magpie, with these beautiful bees on it, and it's one of these knot style bags. That's perfect size for keeping my project book and the yarn in there. So yes, those were the 2 projects that I worked on for my handspun prompt. One more knitting project left to share with you. The dice rolled the newest prompt for me last month, which is exactly as it implies, to work on the last project, or the newest project that I cast on, and that for me happened to be my Mid-Coast sweater. Mid-Coast is a pattern by Jen Steinglass, and I am knitting mine from some beautiful Crochet yarn. I've got 3 different colours of Crochet yarn to use, and my progress took 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and this is where I'm at with my current iteration, or my current version of the Mid-Coast. Here it is, and it's all again curling up on the needles because I've got way more stitches than space on my needles. And if you watch my 12 cast on videos, you might think, Ange, is this not exactly where you got to on day 1? How can you have been working on this for a month and only have this much progress? Well, my friends, let me tell you a story. This is the progress that I actually made. I knit the whole yoke. Look, look, proof. I kept it on the needles so that I could share with you how much knitting I actually got done on this project. I love this pattern, I love this yarn. However, the fit at this particular size for me is not working. So I have cast on again, and I'm going to be ripping this out. But I just wanted to share for posterity all of the work that went in to this project in February. I did a lot of knitting. The issue with this pattern for me is that all of the increases for the yoke happen like between here and here, more or less, or actually between the cast on and here. For me, in the size that I'm knitting, that means there's a lot of extra fabric at the top here, which I don't need, and it's causing rippling, and there's loads of extra fabric sort of just hanging out around the arms. I've gone back to the drawing board. I really want to try and make this work because I love the patterning in this yoke. Did I say it's the Mid-Coast? I think I probably did. I love this colour combination. I kind of copied this from someone else's project on Ravelry. This is not exactly the order that your colours would go if you were following the pattern as written by the designer herself. I'm hoping that by going down a size or 2, I will be able to make this work. As you can see, I have already started putting that plan into fruition because I've started working on it again. But I've gone down several sizes with the hopes that I can get away with a little bit of negative ease on the top and around the bust. And then, because I don't want negative ease on the body, my plan is, if I need to, and I think I will, to add actually some increases at this point. So there's plenty of space for increases in this point of the colour work chart, and also as you can see, there's quite a few rows of plain knitting before you split for the sleeves. So I'm hoping that I will be able to finagle it so I can get a nice fit for me. So that's where we're at with the Mid-Coast at the moment. The beautiful thing is that I'm loving working with this glorious Crochet yarn, so I'm kind of not really mad that I have to knit it again. I'm just feeling a little bit more apprehensive now about whether I can make this particular chart and the way that it work for me. Who knows, when I get to do work on that one again, I'm sure I will enjoy it when I do get back to it. The final dice prompt that I got for February was crochet, and I have a finished object. I promised you I would finish Victor Frog, and so finish him I have. Isn't he just the cutest? Honestly, I don't know why he took me so long. Well, I do know why. It's because crochet with cotton at such a tight gauge is really hard on my hands. So I haven't always been called to pick the project up. But when we did the February dice plans, I said I would finish Victor, and so finished he is. And with any luck, you will have already seen a vlog, or at least there's already a vlog up on the channel charting Victor's progress. So I'm not going to chat about him too much here in this video, other than to share him with you in all his finished glory, and just to remind you that he's a pattern from the Animals of Peek-a-Pow book by Jan Schenkel. And this is the pattern book. and he was a joy to make. I mean, I do go on a lot about and how hard it is on my hands, but realistically the amount of hours that went into Victor is not a huge amount. I just spread them out over the course of more than 12 months because that's just who I am. So yes, there we go. I finished Victor. For all of you Victor fans out there, I hope you enjoy seeing him finished and have enjoyed the silliness that has surrounded this project from day one. There is a story behind his mismatched flippers as well, but again, you would have seen all that malarkey over on the vlog if you have watched it, and if you haven't but you fancy finding out a little bit more, then I'll link that vlog up above or down below somewhere. On to spinning. So this is going to be the last kind of making section, and I've got a couple of spins to share with you, not a huge amount. As you may well have noticed, a lot of my time was taken up by knitting in February, but I do have a little bit of progress to share with you on some of my projects. I've got two spindle spinning projects that I can share with you, and the first is just a really quick mention. Last year, back during the Tour de Fleece in July, I spent time combing a Shetland fleece that I'd previously washed, and this year I have been trying to spend a few minutes every day working on spinning the Shetland fleece. The Shetland fleeces are quite small, and past me, in a fit of who knows what, decided I was going to spin this fleece entirely on my drop spindles. So that's what I've been doing. And I've got a little basket over the other side of the room which I forgot to bring over with me, where I'm storing the fibre that I've spun so far. Spinning up about 15 grams at a time roughly on this beautiful spindle, which is an Enid Ashcroft drop spindle. If you are a spindle spinner and you ever have the opportunity to grab an Enid Ashcroft, I can highly recommend it. I've got drop spindle, I've got support spindles, and I've got a Turkish spindle from Enid, and they're all absolutely beautiful. They just are some of the best tools that I think you will ever hope to get if you are a spindle spinner. So yeah, I've been working away. I'm using this really cute little basket to keep a few nests of comb top in, and I'm just kind of spinning away on that. And I think this is going to be my 5th quantity that I've spun up, so I'm making slow but sure progress on this. And this combing of this fleece took me forever last summer, but it is so worth it, just so worth it. I can't explain to you how much joy it's bringing me to spin this comb top that I know that I took from the raw fleece to these beautiful nests, so light and fluffy. Spinning on this beautiful spindle. This is a project that's going to take a while. It might take me the whole year to spin through the fleece, but I don't care because I'm enjoying every single second that I spend with this fibre and with this beautiful spindle. As I mentioned in the knitting section earlier where I was chatting about my litmus project, I've also been working on my support spindles. I'm working on this lovely fibre from John Arbon. Showed you earlier that I spun a skein of this, and I'm working on a second skein. I'm alternating spinning between 2 of my support spindles. This one is quite a new support spindle to me. It's from Mirkwood, and it's got these beautiful rainbow crystals around the bottom, and the lovely Rachel of Wool & Spinning shared that she had purchased one of these, and just the rainbow crystals just made me think this is me, this has to be for me. So I went and ordered one too. So yeah, I've been enjoying working with the new spindle, and the other spindle that I've been working on is my Whimsy Wooden Wool spindle, and that's downstairs at the moment because it is waiting for the second half of this fibre to get spun on it. So yeah, I've been working a little bit on that as well. And then my final spindle work in progress is in this basket, and some of these you would have seen before because I shared them as part of my last making roundup, but I'm still slowly working away on my Advent bat spinning project. So this last December I swapped with my friend Lisa, and Lisa made me 24 mini bat that I opened each day throughout December, and I'm just working my way through filling up my spindles. In my last wrap up I showed you 4 finished yarns, and I think I had 3 more lots on spindles that I'd spun the singles for, and some of these are still in this basket, but I've continued to work on this spin, and I know this month that I've finished these two, these two, and I think it may also have been, there was one other that I finished, I think it might have been these two. I'm now completely out of support spindles. My whole fleet of spindles is either in this basket or is being used for my John Arbon spin for the litmus, or I've got several more from my advent that I've already started. So throughout December I was spinning 15 minutes a day until I ran out of spindles. So I think I've got 3 more quantities of fibre that have been partially spun, but I can't continue with those because I've got no more spare spindles. So it's time for me to wind all of these off into little cakes so that I can ply these up and free up my spindles. So yeah, I'm slowly working through that project as well. And then finally for spinning, I've got a finished spin to share with you. Over on Patreon, each time I want to start a new spin from my spinning cart, I've got a 3-tiered cart just across the room with lots of quantities of fibre on, which were either gifts or recent purchases. They're the things that I want to try and spin through sooner rather than later. And every time I am ready to start a new spin, I put up a little poll over on Patreon for those folks who are able and very kindly support me over on Patreon, and I ask them to pick between 2 quantities of fibre. And the last time I asked them to pick, it was a choice between 2 natural quantities of fibre, and they picked for me some beautiful rolags that were a gift to me from a member of our community, Sarah. So thank you, Sarah. Sarah had purchased these rolags and didn't enjoy the spinning experience, so asked if I wanted them, and I was happy to rehome them. And this is my first foray into spinning Icelandic, and these rolags were a combination of Icelandic fibre and silk, which was quite an interesting mix, and I had quite a bit of fun and a few challenges spinning up this singles yarn. I'm not sure when it will be up, but there's a vlog that's going to be up on Patreon. I think the Patreon vlog will be up before this making roundup goes up on the main channel. So if you're interested in finding out the ins and outs of this spin, you can sign up over on Patreon if you're able to, and you can sign up on Patreon for as little as £1 a month and you get all of the content at the moment. I might, it's a conversation for another time perhaps, but I might be rejigging some of those Patreon tiers, but at the moment you can sign up just at whatever level you want to support at and you get all of the content over there. But yes, this was a fun, challenging spin, and I've been doing a little bit of experimentation with this yarn. I've obviously wound it all back up now, but you can get the full experience over on Patreon vlog if you're interested in that whatsoever. But I spun these up on my treadle wheel and yeah, just had a lot of fun with it, and these beautiful, beautiful natural colours. And you can see the shots of the silk through anywhere in these darker yarns where you see the light patches. That's the silk shining through. So yes, they were all of my spinning adventures, and that brings me to the end of my making adventures entirely. So wow, that was a lot, wasn't it? For a short month I managed to pack in a lot, but as I said at the start, I think it's just because generally work's a little bit quiet at the moment, which is not the best, but it is what it is. It does mean I am squeezing in a little bit more making time, so I can't grumble at that. At the start of the video I did promise I would share with you a few acquisitions, so let's get on to those before we round out this video. So I mentioned at the start of the video that I went away for a lovely weekend with some fabulous friends, and I got a couple of new things as a result of that. The first is a beautiful pair of socks, and yet again I'm waving my filthy socks at you on YouTube, but hey ho, it is what it is. So we do a little swap between the group. There's 7 of us all together, and for the last few years we've done a little bit of a swap where we make each other things. And last year I was gifted this lovely cowl from Ruth, and this year I got a fabulous pair of socks from the wonderful Catherine. Look, wow, this is really blowing out on the screen. Let me try and I just cannot show you these beautiful fluorescent colours. The speckles in this are just fabulous. My camera just does not want to show these. I have entirely forgotten who made this yarn. I believe the sock pattern is called Honeydew or something like that. I'm so sorry, I'm rubbish at remembering these things. But yeah, they're beautifully, beautifully knit. It's got an all over lace pattern, and I wore them all weekend. I wasn't going to because I was a bit worried about the light colour getting a little bit dirty, and it did, but it was worth it. You know, socks are meant to be worn, right? So that was my first gift from that weekend, which was absolutely lovely. If you watched Vlogmas, you might remember that same group of friends, we do a little advent swap, or we have done for the last few years. We're not going to do one this December. We've decided to take a little break. But one of the packages that I was due to receive in that swap got sent out and then got returned. She very kindly bought the advent packages with her this weekend. So I've got 3 new gorgeous, gorgeous minis that I will be adding into my crochet blanket at some point. I started a granny square blanket from the minis that I received this December, so those will be added. Catherine sent 3 mini skeins and also a little bundle of spinning fibre, and so I spun my fibre up already. Now I chain plied mine because it's this beautiful combination of corals and purples, and I've ended up with a yarn that's a lot thicker than a 4-ply or a fingering weight. So I'm not sure. My original plan was to try and spin this up and add it into my blanket, but because I spun it up on my drop spindle while we were away, I wasn't paying too much attention to the fineness of my spin. So I'm not sure yet whether this is going to go into the blanket or get used for something else. But yeah, I got those 3 minis and I made a 4th mini from my hand spun. Those were some of the gifts that I received on that weekend. And then Jeanette, the wonderful Jeanette, had made us all, or had got made for us all, a beautiful hand potted mug. Isn't this wonderful? With a lovely Ryland sheep on. There were a couple of designs we kind of randomly picked, so I think they were all Rylands. Some of them were this light colour, and then there were some brown as well. We all got one of these. Oh, it's just so cute, isn't it? It's absolutely adorable. We also got a sheepy keyring, and then on the Saturday some of us went out for a little wander. Some stayed at home, and Jeanette took a little drive into a village that was close by to where we were staying, and she came back. She found a little sort of handcraft cooperative kind of shop where lots of makers kind of have their wares for sale, as it were, and she found some fibre, so she came back with an additional gift for us all. So this is 50 grams of Blueface Leicester in this amazing orange colourway. So this will be going on my wheel. Actually, I'm probably going to put it on my cart, on my fibre cart, and then it will go on the wheel at some point soon, hopefully. I love Blueface Leicester, and this colour's just perfect, isn't it? Those were the gifts that I got from our little weekend away. But in addition to that, I also received some other things. So I got a lovely gift from all the way from Canada. My lovely friend Erin and I usually do a little swap. I'm so sorry, Erin, if you're watching this. I still haven't got your package in the post. But Erin sent me some lovely sweet treats, which I have long since eaten. But she also sent me this adorable cross-stitch little pillow. And she said it reminded her of the Secret Garden and the robin in the Secret Garden. And look, oh, isn't that just the most sweet thing that you've ever seen? Oh, it's just so beautiful, and it's got this kind of Christmassy fabric on the back. And as someone who's dabbled with cross stitch, and you saw a little bit earlier on in the episode, I know how long that even the smallest little bit of cross stitch takes, so I appreciate the time and the effort and the thought that has gone into this for sure. It's just a beautiful little thing. Love it so much. So yes, thank you so much for that, Erin. Finally, I got one more package from the Netherlands from my lovely friend Caroline of Colourful Creativity. We tried to do a Christmas little gift exchange, and it went wrong for both of us this year. So I posted a package to Caroline in November. I think it finally arrived either at the end of January or the beginning of February. So it took, I mean, eventually it did get through, but yeah, it took over 2 months to arrive. And the package that Caroline sent to me went completely missing. But Caroline, being the wonderful human that she is, she sent me a second package. And again, there were some sweet treats in there, some licorice, which I love licorice, and some tea, some stroopwafels, and some yarn. And I got this beautiful Christmassy yarn, Trekking XXL. Look at that. So it's reds and greens and pinks. Oh, glorious. And I will look forward to casting this on at some point in the not too distant future. Thank you so much to Catherine, to Jeanette, to Erin and to Caroline for adding some wonderful things to my stash and my little collection of handmade goodies. We've made it to the end. Oh my goodness, I have no idea how long this video is because I've been recording it in little sections and my battery ran out, so I feel like it might be a long one, sorry, although I know a lot of you don't mind longer episodes. I've also got another section to record at some point before I can actually edit this together. How could I forget a finished jumper, honestly? Oh, my brain is all over the place. I'm scrambled at the moment. I don't know why I say at the moment because yeah, it's always like this here, isn't it? Always. Before I properly sign off, I just want to give two quick shout outs connected to the 12 cast-ons. Hello to Viv, and I'm going to link Viv's channel below because Viv is doing a monthly wrap-up based around all of her 12 cast-on projects, so that has been fabulous to follow each month. So go and check out Viv's channel if you want to see some extra 12 cast-on content. And also in that vein, I want to give a shout out to the lovely Mel of Mel Brown Crafting Podcast. And over on Instagram, not on YouTube, over on Instagram, Mel has a series of 12 really short little videos chatting about the projects that she cast on for the 12 cast-ons. I will link Mel's Instagram below if you want a little bit more 12 cast-on fun. And of course, chatting about the 12 cast-ons, please do keep following the hashtag 12 cast-ons 2022 because lots of people are continuing to post their progress and their finished objects using that hashtag over on Instagram. Right, I really must wrap up, so thank you so much for being here, for watching, for liking the channel, for subscribing, for supporting. I've had a couple of coffee donations in the last couple of months, so thank you to anyone who has been financially supporting the podcast that way, or who has signed up to Patreon and has been supporting me in that way too. If that's something you're interested in thinking about, there are extra videos over there. You get early ad-free access to all of the videos, or most of the videos that I post. The only one that I don't do early ad-free access for is the shop videos because I figure not everyone's interested in watching those anyway. Extra stuff going on over on Patreon. If you would like to sign up, I would love to have you over there. I know many channels say this, but it is very time consuming to sit and record and edit these videos, and so any support that I get through Ko-fi or Patreon really does help me to set aside the time to do this. Right, thank you so much. I hope you all, if you've stuck to the end, great big hugs to you because it's a long one I think. So I will be back here again soon with some more making content, so I hope you will join me for the next videos. But until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye.